All right, today's lesson is going to be over absolute value equations. So let's look over here and see what the steps are to solve. So the first step we're going to do is make sure that your absolute value is isolated, meaning there's nothing on the outside of that absolute value, everything is off to the other side. Number 2, you're going to make sure the inside is equal to, you're going to set the inside equal to both the positive and negative number on the other side of your equal sign. You're going to solve both equations, and then you're going to write the answer as a solution set. So let's go ahead and try some examples here. Okay, so first step is let's make sure it's isolated. You see outside my absolute value, there is nothing out here. It's all by itself, so we are good to go. Now I can go ahead and make my two equations. I'm going to set the inside, so my x equal to the positive outside, that's my 2. And I'm going to set my inside again equal to my negative outside, negative 2. Because there's no way to solve these anymore, this is my answer. X equals 2 and x equals negative 2. We're going to write it as a solution set. So x equals, we're going to do little frilly brackets, 2, comma, negative 2. And some more frilly brackets. Let's try another example. So here we have the absolute value of m equals 14. So again, there's nothing on the outside of my absolute value here or here, so we're good to go and make two equations. The inside, which is just m, is equal to the outside. We're going to do the same thing. M is equal to the negative outside, negative 14. Again, there's nothing to solve here, so we are good to go. All right, let's look at it. Oh, and we got to write our m equals frilly brackets 14, comma, negative 14. So let's look at some examples where we have to actually solve for things. So here's an example where I'm going to actually have to solve. Once again, is there anything on the outside? Nope, so we're good to go. Make two equations. Okay, the first is going to be your inside, 5z, is equal to your outside, 40. And again, your inside, 5z, that never changes. The only thing that's changing is this outside number, and that's going to be equal to your negative outside. So here we go, and we're just going to solve. Z is multiplied by 5, so the opposite is dividing by 5. So that gives me z equals 8. So that's one answer. Again, same thing, dividing by 5. This time, z equals negative 8. Now this won't always be the case where your answer is going to be positive and negative. And we'll see that here on this next example. So again, I'm going to write z equals my solution set with my frilly brackets, 8, comma, negative 8. Okay, 4, I'm going to skip, but the answer to 4 is going to be a equals frilly brackets, negative 4 and 4. So if you don't get that, come see me and we'll go over it. I want to work on one where you can see that it's not going to be the same. So here's D. Anything on the outside of my absolute values? No, so we're good to go. So we're going to make two equations. Again, inside stays the same, D plus 1 equals my outside. Again, inside stays the same, D plus 1 equals my negative outside. Okay, so here we go. We're going to solve just like we do on all of our equations. So we're going to minus 1. That gives me D equals 7. Minus 1 on this side, that gives me D equals negative 9. Again, writing our answer as a solution set, D equals frilly brackets, 7, comma, negative 9. Now if you want to write your negatives first, that's fine, or your positives first, whatever makes you happy. 6, I'm going to give you the answer for. 6 is going to be W equals frilly brackets, negative 1 and 7. So give that one a try. If you can't get it, let me know and we'll come back. Okay, let's zoom in here on 7. So again, nothing on the outsides, so we're good to go. Let's try and make our two equations. Okay, my first one, inside stays the same, 4n plus 2 equals my outside. The second one, same thing, inside stays the same. 4n plus 2 equals my negative outside. Your inside never changes. The only thing you're changing is that outside number. All right, so here we go. We're going to solve them. So minusing 2 from both sides. So that gives me 4n equals 32. Divide by 4. So that gives me n equals 8. Same steps over on this side. Minusing 2. So that gives me 4n equals negative 36. Dividing by 4. So that gives me n equals negative 9. All right, our answer is the solution set up here. So n equals, freely brackets, negative 9 and 8. Okay, 8, same thing. I'm going to give you the answers. If you can't come up with these, let me know and we'll help you out. So for 8, v equals, freely brackets, negative 11 and 6. All right, let's work on some that we actually have to move things. So 9 through 16, we got to do stuff too. So let's look at our first example here, 9. So you see outside my absolute value, I have a plus 2. I can't do that. Absolute value has to be all by itself on one side. So the opposite of plus 2 is minus 2. So it's just like you're solving that equation. You're getting that absolute value by itself. So that gives me the absolute value of c equals 10. Now that I'm here, I can make my two equations. C equals 10 and c equals negative 10, and those are my solutions. So c equals, freely brackets, 10 and negative 10. 10, you're going to do the same thing. Opposite of negative 8 is positive 8. So that will give you the absolute value of y is equal to 3. Make my two equations. Y equals 3 and y equals negative 3. Make my solution set. Y equals, freely brackets, 3 comma negative 3. Now let's work on one where we have to do some tricky things here. So let's look at 14. So 14, I have to do just more than just one thing, right? So think of this, if I were to rewrite it, it would be like this. Negative 10 junk minus 3 equals 83. I want to get the junk by itself so then I can make my two equations. So if this was a normal equation, I would add 3 to both sides, then divide by negative 10. We're going to do that exact same thing here. So let's do it. Add 3 to both sides. So that gives me negative 10 times the absolute value of h plus 5 equals negative 80. Divide both sides by negative 10, which gives me h plus 5 equals 8. Now here I can make my two equations. So I have h plus 5 equals positive 8, and h plus 5 equals negative 8. Going to minus 5 from both sides. So that gives me h equals 3 minus 5. So that gives me h equals negative 13. Right, my answer is a solution set. H equals, freely brackets, negative 13 and 3. All right, let's try another hard one. Let's try 16. So 16, again, we have to add 24 to both sides. You're just getting the absolute value by itself. So that gives me 3 halves. Absolute value 4r minus 4 equals 4. Or nope, that's going to be 3. Okay, now like we talked about before, you can't divide by a fraction. So we're going to multiply by its reciprocal. So we're going to multiply both sides by 2 over 3. And again, if you don't have a calculator, simple way is just put it over 1 and multiply across. So that'd be 6 over 3. 6 over 3 is just 2. Now that I have my absolute value isolated, I can make my two equations. 4r minus 4 equals 2, and 4r minus 4 equals negative 2. Going to add 4 to both sides. So 4r equals 6. Divide by 4, so I get r equals 3/2 for this one. Add 4 to both sides, so that gives me 4r equals 2. Divide by 4, so that gives me r equals 1/2. Write it as a solution set. R equals, curly brackets, 3/2 and 1/2. All right. Now let's go over the answers to the other ones. So again, if you'd like to try them at home, you are more than welcome to. And if you'd like to check them and you don't get the right answer, come see me and we can help you out. So for let's do 11. 11, x equals, curly brackets, -4 and 4. 12, z equals, curly brackets, -10 and 4. 13, you're going to get w equals, curly brackets, -7 and 11. 15, n equals, -6 and 2. So let's talk about some things that we can't have with absolute values. So when we solve an absolute value, right, a typical absolute value, so say we have the absolute value of -10. The inside number can be negative, but our answer will always come out positive, no matter what the inside is, right? So if it's -10 on the inside, it comes out to be +10. If it's +10 on the inside, still comes out to be +10. So what that means is this outside number can't be negative ever. So if we have an absolute value of something that comes out to be a negative number, that can't work. We're going to call this no solution. However, you want to make sure that you solve the whole equation first, right? You want to get that absolute value by itself. Because as you saw up on number 14, it was equal to a negative number, but we had to isolate that absolute value first. So now that it's isolated, it was a positive, we could solve it. This one looks to be the opposite, right? It starts out as a positive, so we think, okay, we can solve this. But however, when we divide by -3 on both sides, we get the absolute value of 2x plus 1 equals -7. Our absolute value is all by itself, and it equals a negative number. Can't do that. That one becomes no solution. All right, friends, that concludes today's notes. If you've got any questions, please let me know. Come see me, and let's schedule a Zoom session. And other than that, look up above and see what your assignment is. Have a great day.